Good afternoon, I'm Jim Diamond. Hope you're well this Wednesday. The Green Party revealing its plans to boost spending on the NHS and social care through a series of tax rises. It's all part of its manifesto unveiled today. It says it would introduce a wealth tax and increase national insurance for top earners. Let's speak live on LBC News to Joanna Marchong, who's Investigations Campaign Manager at the TaxPayers Alliance. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for coming on the programme. So what do you make of this wealth tax, first off?
Well, I think it's really important that when we talk about this, we kind of iron out the facts of it all. Wealth tax has never worked. I mean, it's in places where it's been implemented. So you have France who had implemented it, but it was an entirely watered down version of what we're thinking of. Or in Sweden, where it was instantly repealed after implementation. And that's because they quickly realized that it would cost them more money in the long run. Or even just realizing that capital flights are entirely something that we should be scared about. It's important to know that the top 1% pay 28% of income tax. We rely on these super wealthy people, this top 1%, to pay for the NHS, to pay for public services. So if we're giving them harsh conditions where they think they need to protect their assets, and the way to do that is leaving, they will get on those flights. They will go elsewhere. And it's not a situation of whether it's feasible, can people really pick up their lives? We've seen with working from home initiatives and after COVID, everyone can work remotely. So it is feasible and they will leave and it will end up costing the UK billions. And then the admin costs associated with the tax in the first place, well, no one will be taxed, all the wealthy will be gone. And then the admin costs associated won't be justifiable. So it will cost the British taxpayer a lot more to inflict these harsher restrictions or more tax on the wealthy.
What about the not super rich? The Green Party suggesting they would like to raise national insurance to 8% on people earning over £50,270 a year.
Well, that's almost shocking to hear because we've just come from a Tory government, who has steadily decreased national insurance. 2p cut, another 2p cut. They're promising more cuts to national insurance. So people have got this small shred of relief and they've got, I don't know, a few more pennies in their pocket. And now we're being told if we vote for Green, actually the situation is we're going to be giving that back and we're going to say, no, we don't want this disposable income. And it's a very weird and odd situation from the Green Party to go so heavily on increasing tax when we've just come. Taxpayers now have the choice to choose what future they want. And whilst protecting our NHS and our public services are extremely important to everyone, we've also just survived 14 years of this parliament, which has increased the tax burden, which is almost at an 80-year high, than any other parliament since the 1950s. I think what resonates with all taxpayers is that we've had extremely tough years, and right now we are begging for some kind of relief, some kind of help, more money at the end of the month.
What do you think businesses would make of the Green suggestion on workers' rights? The party pushing to increase the minimum wage to £15 an hour, no matter the age, and move to introduce a 4-day working week.
Well, the 4-day working week is it's a very contested idea. The Taxpayers Alliance did an entire campaign in South Cambridgeshire where we detested it in public sectors. We are paying high salaries for these workers, these public sector workers that were supposed to be providing services for us. And now we're being told that they actually want to work less days than the private sector, than other hardworking people. And when we ran the investigation, we actually saw the evidence to suggest that the reports had been tampered with. So even the background information or the scientific evidence to suggest that this could be effective, it was all falsified, so it wasn't effective. And it's a situation where the cost of government, that the promise of the cost of government that the Green Party are kind of running on is way too high to be justified. again, they're talking about nationalisation of our big energy utility companies. It's an enormous cost, and the only way for that to happen is by putting up taxes. And I don't know if the British people will actually say, do you know what, I prefer to do that instead.
There has been a lot of talk about the other parties and about whether or not, when you look at what the Institute of Fiscal Studies is saying, about whether they're being honest about the reality of what is around the corner, whoever is elected, because all these big promises are there, Labour and the Conservatives saying they will not increase income tax, national insurance or VAT. But then do the numbers add up? Are they being frank and honest about the nation's finances and the decisions that will have to be made, whether that's be spending cuts or tax rises?
Well, that's an extremely good point, and I think it's on everyone's mind. What can we actually trust? This is, at the end of the day, an election campaign, and whether it's local elections or party elections, we are always in a cycle of saying, we might vote you in to do this, but will you actually follow up on it? Do the numbers make sense? I think right now, voters have to be very wary and kind of be optimistic that these things can happen. But again, it's an election campaign, and people and parties are grappling on to what will win votes. We just kind of have to hope that the general direction they're going in is something that aligns with what's good for us, what's good for in the long term, whether we'll be under financial strain as we've been for the last few years, whether the state of the world will kind of be okay, etc. It's very tough to make that decision, and whether to realise will there be any follow through.
Joanna Marchong, Investigations Campaign Manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you for joining me live.